Enzymes, probiotics, B vitamins, and omega-3 fatty acids. So fermented foods kind of have two purposes. One, they're going to help you to preserve your food. This was a technique that was used long before there was refrigeration as a way to preserve your food. And also it's going to make it more nutrient dense. You're going to have a greater range of nutrients. It's going to be more digestible because of the digestive enzymes that are in it and the probiotics. The food is already almost partially broken down. So a lot of really great things happen when you ferment foods. And fermented foods are not really a part of North American culture unless your culture brought them here. It's something that we're really missing actually in our society, is a really great source of fermented foods. In Korea, they have kimchi. So if you've ever had kimchi, that's their fermented dish, often served with meals, especially heavier meals with meat to help you digest. In Russia, I believe it is, they have beet kvass. And in Icelandic or Germanic countries like Germany, they have sauerkraut. And these were little side dishes that were served along with meals in order to help with the digestive process. And so as I started learning more about fermented foods, I really wanted to incorporate as much as I could into our diet, because buying, little jars of probiotics and stuff like that starts to get really expensive. So if you can kind of produce your own, that's a really great, inexpensive way to bring added nutrition and benefit to your life. So I really like sharing this one, the lacto-fermented ginger carrots, because it's dead easy to make. It's not really very intimidating, and it's super tasty. So what you're going to need, I had 4 carrots and I chopped them all up here. You can here, I'll show you a few of them. They're kind of like a matchstick. I didn't think you guys wanted to watch me chop vegetables. So matchstick type sizes, and it was about 4 carrots or so, and I still have a little bit left that I don't think are gonna fit into the jar. So 3 to 4 carrots depending on size. Now, just a little trick that I've kind of learned over the years is lay your carrot down and then measure before you start cutting. It's a real pain in the butt to start cutting all your carrots only to realize they're too tall, because you're gonna wanna leave some head space at the top for the brine, and also for the later stages of the process where you have to make sure that your carrots stay under the brine. So you're gonna need a weight of some kind in order to do that. So I've got my carrots chopped already. I also sliced up some ginger root, nice little thin slices like this. You can do matchstick sizes too if you want, so I can cut them a little narrower. And how much ginger you put in is your choice. If you like your carrots nice and gingery, then you can add more. That's what's really neat. This process really only takes about 2 weeks on the counter for it to fully ferment. So you can try one batch with less ginger, and then you can add more if you choose. So you want organic carrots, ideally not peeled. You want to have that outside portion intact. You're going to need a natural salt of some kind, sea salt, or in this case, I really like using Himalayan sea salt. It's my favorite, so that's what I've used to make my brine. And I went ahead and I did that ahead of time. I do find that if you use hot or warm water, the salt dissolves a little better. So the ratio for this 1.5 cups of brine was 2 teaspoons of Himalayan sea salt to 1.5 cups of water. You want to use really good, clean water. Chlorine, fluoride, any of those types of things are going to kill off any of your natural bacteria. So tap water is out unless you're filtering it with a Berkey gravity-fed filter, or you have a water filtration system in your home that's going to remove the fluoride and the chlorine. The fluoride interferes with the fermentation process, and the chlorine pretty much kills everything. So you want really good water source. So again, that was 1.5 cups of water to 2 teaspoons of Himalayan sea salt. Or you can just use a natural sea salt, whatever your preference is. If memory serves, salts that have iodine or added iodine in them don't seem to work as well for fermentation. So you want to make sure that your jar is clean and washed. I've already poured boiling water over the jar so that way it's nice and sterilized. And you're just going to load it up with your carrots. Like I said, already went ahead and I cut all these into kind of matchsticks and leaving myself lots of head space. And then as you're putting your carrots in, you slide a slice of ginger in there. And what's nice about fermented foods, because you're not running them through a water bath canner, they're not going to get soft. They retain their crunch, which is really, really nice, because when you process things, you can do pickled carrots using the same kind of brine you would for dill pickles, and you can run those through a water bath canner and they're tasty, but they have been basically cooked for 15 minutes. So when that happens, I find they're not as super crunchy as I like them, whereas the fermented carrots stay nice and crunchy. So I'm just loading up my jar here, putting in my matchstick carrots and my ginger. I like a lot of ginger in mine. Again, it's personal preference, so try some with less. And then the next time you make it, you can decide, no, I'd really like to add more ginger, or you decide that you want less. So cram as many carrots as you can into your jar and make sure you're remembering to slide your ginger slices in there as well. And I'm almost full. Like I said, I washed 3 full carrots or 4 carrots, and I probably only needed 3, but that's going to depend on the size of carrot that you're using. And we've done this with all different types of carrots. Like we've done this with rainbow carrots and the ones from the grocery store, all that kind of stuff. So my jar is nice and full now. You can see I've packed all my carrots in there, and my ginger slices are in there as well. So the next step with fermentation, the key is that your vegetables have to remain below the brine. Now, I have some fancy gadgets that I've invested in. They're absolutely not necessary, but I'm completely in love with them, and they've made the fermentation process really, really simple. And so it's a company called, I think the company's called Pickle Pebbles or Pickle Pipes, maybe. I should probably know this. And I've got a silicone lid that goes on the top. And what's neat is I'll see if I can show you guys, it has an opening. See if you can see that on the camera. So you don't have to burp your jar. I'll get into that in just a few minutes. But one of the things they make are something called Pickle Pebbles, which are basically just glass weights. I've also run this through boiling water as well, so it's nice and clean and sterilized. And this goes on top of your vegetables, so that way it weighs them down and keeps them below the brine. Now, before I had these, I would just use anything I had on hand. The first time I made sauerkraut, I went and I grabbed a bunch of rocks, I boiled them, and I put them in to clean them off, washed them, boiled them to sterilize them, and put them in a Ziploc bag, and I used that as my weight. It's only recently that I've invested in the Pickle Pebbles and the Pickle Pipes. So once you've got all your carrots in, you're going to want to pour your brine, which again was just 1.5 cups of water to 2 teaspoons of your salt of choice. It's likely going to make more than you need. Make sure your vegetables are completely covered. And then you're going to want to put your weight, whatever you're using. If you're using rocks, if you're using pickle pebbles, or if you have any other kind of fermented weight or a glass weight of some kind. I've even seen people use smaller mason jars to stick on top. That works as well. Anything that you can kind of do, because anything that's above the brine could go moldy. Remember, this is staying on your countertop for 1 to 2 weeks. And so any of the vegetable pieces that end up above the brine will likely start to mold. So I'm going to put my pickle pebble in, and I'm never able to do this without splashing myself every single time. I'm just going to grab a towel. So now I've got my fermentation weight in, and probably a little bit too much liquid. So I'll pour that off. This is going to keep my veggies nice and below the brine. And if you don't have a pickle pipe like this, you can use a regular old mason lid jar. That's a mason jar lid. That's perfectly fine. You're just gonna have to remember once a day to burp your jar, because one of the byproducts of the fermentation process is carbon dioxide. So you're just gonna have to burp your jar to let those gases out. That's the kind of benefit of having the pickle pipes. because it doesn't let any nasty bacteria in, and then it lets all the gases that the fermentation process created out. So I like these. You just screw that on. And in this case, my batch of what will be lacto-fermented ginger carrots is done. That's all I had to do, except clean up my mess at this point now. So I'm going to keep this on the counter for about 1 to 2 weeks or so. You can taste one after 1 week, and if you like the taste and you like the crunch, then they're done, and you can pop them in your fridge or pantry. I know a lot of folks store fermented foods at room temperature in their pantry. I tend to put mine in my fridge. But if you don't have a fridge, if you're off-grid, or if you have experience storing your fermented foods on the counter year-round, please write a comment below. I'm super interested in that. So that was it. We just made lacto-fermented ginger carrots in less than 10 minutes. And they will be loaded with probiotics and B vitamins, digestive enzymes, and omega-3 fatty acids, just as a byproduct of the lacto-fermentation process. I'll put links below. I've got a blog post on this. If you like having written instructions, you can follow the link and check out my blog post. I'll also put the links to the Pickle Pebbles and Pickle Pipes if it's something that you're interested in. If you plan on doing a lot of fermented foods, things like sauerkraut, kimchi, anything like that. I've even used it for kombucha, water kefir, all those types of things. You know, it might be a worthwhile investment for you to invest in these puppies. And they do come in 2 different sizes, just as an added note before I go. I like the wide mouth mason jars for fermenting. I find that the jars that have the shoulders, it's more difficult to get things in. So I opted to get the Pickle Pebbles and Pipes that are designed for wide mouth mason jars, okay? So they, like I said, they do make 2 different sizes. So that's it. In a couple weeks, I'm going to enjoy my carrots, and I just want to thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm Correne from Spiraea Herbs and Snail Trails Homestead. I hope it's sunny where you are, and if it is, get outside and play. Thanks for watching.